Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to why the USA will always be the global superpower. It's from a channel that I've reacted to a few times, and yeah, we're just going to check this out. Hopefully you're going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon where you can see reactions that I can't post to YouTube, TV series, movie reactions, YouTube videos that I can't post to YouTube because copyright or whatever. You can watch them through the links in the description, but we're going to check this out and see why they will always be a superpower.
At the time of making this video, the US stands as the world's largest economy by quite some distance. They have the most powerful military on Earth with the largest military budget. They are the third most...
Well, let's look at the stats. I don't really know what this index score thing is, but I guess the lower the better.
Military budget. They are the third most populated country in the world and the fourth largest country on Earth by land size. So it is fair to say they are a global superpower. Hey guys, Sam here from the Geography Bible. I hope you are having a fantastic week wherever in the world you may be. In recent decades, it is quite apparent that other countries of the world are catching up. Yes, China, we are looking at you. But does China or any other nation or region have what it takes to overthrow the US and become the world's #1 superpower? In this video, we shall find out. Let's be honest, there are only a handful of countries who could ever compete for the title of the world's most powerful country. To be a superpower, you need a large population, lots of land, wealth, natural resources, and military expenditure. There is an ongoing discussion that China is emerging as a new superpower and replacing the US from the global power structure. China emerging strongly from the growing global pandemic crisis due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and Donald Trump's ally alienating policies with NATO have pushed this narrative forward considerably. There is no doubt whatsoever that China is becoming the global powerhouse economically and is expected to surpass the US as the world's biggest economy by 2028. China is still behind, but
I think this was before. There's been quite a few things recently that have maybe sort of changed people's view on that. I don't know exactly, but this video is 2 years old, so I think it's a bit it's not fully updated on certain things like that, but maybe I'm wrong.
But on its way to surpassing the US in military power, with increased spending on weapons, technology, and developing several secretive weapons. So now let's jump into some reasons why the US will always be the global superpower. Firstly, the United States already has a huge lead by the most important measures of national power. China is the only country that comes remotely close, and America still has much more than China's wealth and 5 times its military capabilities. That gap alone would take decades to close, even if things go badly for the US. And as China grows and increases their military might, the US will be doing exactly the same thing. China's growth, if anything, will be motivation for the US to develop and invent new technologies to continue to grow their lead. Also, it is unlikely that things would go badly for the US because it has the best long-term economic growth prospects among the major powers. Economists have shown that long-run growth depends on a country's geography, demography, and political institutions. The United States has an edge in all of these categories. So unless something goes catastrophically wrong, like a supervolcano eruption at Yellowstone National Park, the US is safe in this regard. Geographically, the United States is a natural economic hub and military fortress. It's packed with resources and has more economic arteries, like navigable waterways and ports, than the rest of the world combined. Its only neighbours are Canada and Mexico. China, by contrast, has burned through its resources and is surrounded by 19 other countries, many of which are hostile or unstable, and 10 of which still claim parts of China's territory as their own. To put it lightly, the US benefits greatly from being rather isolated. Other superpowers like Russia, India, and China all border multiple countries, including each other. Of those, many are unpredictable and unstable. Demographically, America is the only nation that is simultaneously big, young, and highly educated. The US workforce is the 3rd largest, 2nd youngest, most educated.
2nd youngest? I didn't know the US was such a young country. Is that because of immigrants moving there, or is that just how it's always been? I'm kind of confused because I know a lot of Western countries are aging a lot, so I wonder how the US is managing to keep their average age like relatively young or young in general.
In years of schooling and most productive among the major powers. And it is the only major workforce that will grow throughout this century. China, on the other hand, will lose around 200 million workers over the next 30 years and add 300 million senior citizens. Chinese workers produce 6 times less wealth per hour than American workers on average. More than 2/3 of China's workers lack a high school education, and 1/3 of Chinese young people entering the workforce have an IQ below 90. Okay, so enough about China. What about Russia, the US's sworn enemy during the Cold War era? Russia threatens many US interests. It menaces US allies, props up US adversaries such as Iran and Syria, murders pro-democracy advocates, meddles in elections, and has recently seized foreign territory near its borders. But Russia is not posed to become a rival superpower like the Soviet Union was. Russia's military budget is 10 times smaller than America's. Its economy...
Wait, it's only a little bit more... Let's see. Oh, this is the budget and this is the actual amount the country has. Okay, so I was looking at the wrong thing. Wait, China... So this, I guess this is how much the country is worth, like how much money the country has. So I guess this is in trillions. So 778 trillion, I assume. Or is it in bit? I don't really know. It doesn't really show which is which is a bit annoying. I was thinking this is the percentage of their budget they spend on the military. Does the US spend 39%? I don't think it is that. I don't know what these stats are. I don't know.
America's. Its economy is smaller than that of Texas, and its population will shrink 30% over the next 30 years. Russia has no meaningful allies, and it faces NATO, the most powerful alliance in history, on its borders. The United States needs to worry about Russia's activities, especially its election meddling, and its actions in the Baltics. But it can do so without gearing for another Cold War. But what if Russia and China united their positions? Russia and China will never form a genuine alliance. They share a 2,600-mile border, compete for influence across Eurasia, and sell arms to each other's enemies. But Russia and China still harm US interests by acting in concert on a limited set of issues. For example, both countries have spent billions of dollars on media outlets and hackers aimed at reversing the spread of democracy across the US. The two countries have sanctioned US allies and colluded in the United Nations to block or water down US sanctions on North Korea and Iran and other countries. More worryingly, China and Russia would simultaneously start wars with US allies, such as Chinese war with Taiwan and a Russian war in the Baltics, which would seriously stretch the US military forces. Let's also not forget that the US dollar is the world's international currency, used by countries all across the planet. Today, more than 61% of all foreign bank reserves are denominated in US dollars, according to the International Monetary Fund. Many of the reserves are in cash or US bonds, such as the US Treasuries. Also, approximately 40% of the world's debt is denominated in US dollars.
Damn.
The reserve status is based largely on the size and strength of the US economy and the dominance of the US financial markets. Despite large deficit spending, trillions of dollars in debt, and the unbridled printing of the US dollar, US Treasury secretaries remain the safest store of money. The chance of these institutions all swapping their American dollars to Chinese renminbi or Russian rubles is extremely unlikely, and again benefits the US astronomically. Speaking of crazy wealth, the majority of the most valuable companies on the planet are American.
Yeah.
At the time of making this video,
Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet. Wait, what? I know Google, but Alphabet? When has it been called Alphabet? Saudi Aramco. I don't know what that is. Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, TSMC, Nvidia. That's just massive companies.
7 of the top 10 most
Visa.
valuable companies in the world by market cap are American, and out of the top 100, 60 are American companies.
That is crazy. At the top 100, 60 are American. That is so. Oh, it literally says the countries there. So that is obviously Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, China. God
Out of the
damn.
top 100, 60 are American companies. A lot of these companies are technology-based organizations that are literally used by billions of people across the planet. All of this revenue, data and information is being gathered by these companies to become only bigger, more powerful and efficient. It would take a serious monumental disaster for any other country to be able to surpass the US's dominance in global trade and finance. Also, the American culture is driven by the American dream, particularly by Hollywood. It's what makes America the most influential country in the world. Any country that tries to build an entertainment industry that rivals that of America
Hollywood, Nollywood, Bollywood.
is a threat to a US national security too. So to summarise, China has far too many domestic issues that it is ignoring in its race to dominate the world stage. It is likely that one of these problems will cause China, as it's currently iterated, to either contract or fall into another civil conflict. Russia also is burdened by social issues that will preclude it from dominating the political scene anytime soon. The European Union is having trouble keeping a number of its member nations financially afloat, and in fact keeping many of its countries inside the Union. The language, cultural and historical barriers that have challenged Europe for almost 2,000 years will be still intact for some time to come, preventing the EU from seizing world dominance. Over in Japan, their population is contracting and aging. This will make it difficult for it ever to become more than a regional powerhouse militarily, while still remaining an economic powerhouse globally. The other two serious contenders for the most powerful country in the world, Indonesia and Brazil, are both geographically quite isolated, linguistically challenged, and have no significant history of military intervention or dominance. While they are both resource rich enough to become world powers, both have serious social issues that will also preclude them from successfully seeking a dominant position on the world
Look
stage.
at that.
Media
Still.
hype about the American collapse aside, no single country nor group can do what the US does individually, and most of them aren't foolish enough to even try to replicate this. In my opinion, the US will remain the dominant global power for many decades to come and beyond. So, what are your thoughts? Will the US...
There we go. There we go. Geography does really help the US. Its strongest allies are the two oceans that border it, and then Mexico and Canada are on really good terms with the US. So basically, they would be quite difficult to attack. Yeah, I've learned that through previous videos before. Also, the fact that English is considered the international language benefits the US considerably. Yep, I mean, that is very true. I'd almost say that the US is in such a strong position that we will never be dislodged by normal means. It's like having a massive chip advantage. And I think when playing poker, I do think in this sort of world we're in now, I think it's the perfect time to be the superpower, because like now everything's sort of online, the internet, so the culture and all that sort of stuff. I always bring it back to culture, but I think that's important with this sort of stuff. It's all based around, like, you see GTA, for example, the trailer. Like, that is one thing on its own that you just realise, god damn, there's this whole interest. Obviously, it's a bit goofy, it's a bit over the top, but you think about it, it's the GTA is a US export in the sense of, although I think its creator was Rockstar. I think GTA 5 was made by a Scottish company. I don't know, I don't actually know, but it's probably the most loved game in the world because it's so goofy, it's so silly. You see all these sort of like silly things in the US, but like it's obviously to an extreme. And those sorts of things people love. So I mean, obviously not just GTA. I'm not just basing things off of GTA. That's just what came into my mind because obviously that's so recent, the advert and all that. But it just makes you think like, and then you got like TikTok, Twitter, like all these different things, obviously created by the US, not TikTok, but yeah, they're created by the US, and then a lot of the cultures around it, and just all this stuff. You get like music from the US. I don't know. It's just what I sort of view from it, but. Hopefully, enjoy this reaction. I was just waffling there at the end. And yeah, until next time, subscribe and peace.